Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Andrew Guy.
I'm John Roca.
And we are the Action Guys. Oh, that was perfect.
Woo! Woo! Screw you, Ben.
Yeah.
I'm taking the job.
Honestly, that's better. He always switches it up every week.
Yeah,
I've
does.
started to hate it.
Oh, really? His switch ups?
I hate how he switches it up.
Fascinating.
I want it to be perfect.
Oh, yeah.
But whatever, maybe we'll replace him. So, John, it's really good to have you here, man. I mean, you and I haven't been on camera together in a long time.
Yeah.
That wasn't the Schmodown.
Right.
And obviously, we have our bad blood in the Schmodown. Although I feel like it's evolved now.
I shouldn't have left your mom. Let's say that now.
Thank God you finally. I've been waiting 31 years to hear it. But it's nice, man, because this is kind of how I. The first time I ever worked with you was doing shows together, you know, with you and Matt, and well, actually not technically you and Matt, but I've watched Top 10. So I was a fan of that, and then obviously you coming on our show, and then
that was fun.
Evolved into the Schmodown. So really happy to have you here, man.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
And didn't you guys do a pilot? Was I on the pilot of whatever show you guys were kicking around?
That's
I remember
what it was, the pilot. I was like, I know we did something, but it never lived anywhere. So yeah, we did the pilot for I think this show.
Yeah, I think so. The initial.
Yeah, a long time back.
Yeah.
God, your memory's better than mine. No wonder you're better at me than movie trivia.
I still have pictures of us.
So you saw Far From Home. How'd you feel about it?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I will say this: it's not as good as Homecoming for me.
Same. I couldn't agree more.
Exactly, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great to see Tom Holland live in the role even more again.
Yeah.
I really loved Zendaya as MJ again, and Tony Revolori got more stuff with Flash. Happy Hogan being a part of this equation makes so much sense.
He's the best.
You've been waiting to find out where he's going to be.
Yeah.
Like, where is he going to fit in? Is he going with Tony and basically like moving out of the MCU? Are they going to find a place for him? And they do. And with Aunt May makes so much sense because Marissa Tomei is goddamn beautiful.
Oh, she's so beautiful.
Right. So to have it all played the way it did and then have him discover what he discovered about himself and then have him go through all the stuff with Mysterio, I thought it was just great.
Yeah.
You know? So,
and I liked Gyllenhaal's Mysterio. I don't know how much I actually loved the way that they drew up Mysterio, but I also think he might still, and there will be, I guess I'll say there'll be spoilers. Why not?
Yeah,
it's been out for a while
your
now.
show?
Yeah. Or actually, no, we won't spoil things. What I will say is that I don't think the way that it ended is actually how things are going to transpire as we move forward.
Oh,
if that makes sense.
There's a lot of open endings in this movie, which makes it even more exciting for what you're going to get in the next installment or in the other MCU movies coming down the line.
And with him being the villain that he is, it feels like there's just always more. There's always more to Mysterio. It's something that you're not expecting. So that being said, we're going to be ranking our top 10 villains in the MCU, the definitive ranking from John Roca and Andrew Guy. But really quickly, we're going to do a couple plugs, some social plugs. John, where can the people find you?
Oh, yeah, you can always find me at The Roca Says on Twitter and on Instagram. I do the top 10 with Matt Nost, as Andrew mentioned. You can follow us there or find us there on all the podcast channels. I also do the Cinephiles, which me and my friend Steve Morris, who's a film director here in town, we break down one great or classic film every week for like 2 or 3 hours on the show.
Awesome.
We've had Mance on a few times. We've had a bunch of people come on the show. Perry did Jurassic Park with us.
Okay.
So it's a great show. And then the new one that I started a few weeks ago, the Geek Buddies, that's me and two of my friends who've been together for 20 years. We've been friends for 20 years. One is an executive producer and writer on a number of animated series. It's Michael Vogel. He's done My Little Pony for the last few years. Yeah. And then my friend Shannon McClung, who's an actor and animation writer as well. And they're pitching a couple of new projects. So we just decided, we've been kicking it around for a while and decided, well, shit, we love talking about movies anyway. Let's just do it on podcast form. And it's been quick. And Brian Ward did our logo. So we're building every week, just kind of getting it out there and getting people involved in it.
Well, dude, you've been doing this for a really long time, and you're always looking for that next step. You're always working really, and I love it. That's one of the things I love most about you, man, is you're always working your ass off. And I don't want to say I look up to you on camera because it lives forever, so I'm not going to say it. But I do admire your work ethic, John.
Thanks, man.
So, guys, go find John there. And actually, I wanted to pick your brain really quickly because you guys can find me at Andrew Guy. You can find the show at Team Action Show on Twitter and Action Industries on Instagram. But AI, the Action Guys, AMA, Team Action, we're doing a live show in New York.
That's
and this is something that you and Matt have done for a long time. Yeah. And so I wanted to pick your brain just a little bit, just real quickly, if you can give me any nut. Because the other day I woke up. I was like, holy shit, I'm kind of nervous. I don't really get nervous for much anymore. But I was like thinking about the live show, and it's like an hour and a half, and what the hell am I going to talk about for an hour and a half? So you got any gems of knowledge to drop on me?
The thing I would say is the number one thing is ride the wave of the crowd. And you've already done a live event with Ben competing in the Schmodown. You've already done a number of Sopranos in front of 50 to 30 people in a studio. So what this is people, the shortcut that you have here is people have paid tickets to see you. So they want to come and have a great time and enjoy their time with you. If you feel relaxed and confident and getting out there, a little nerves is always good because it keeps you on the edge. Yeah. But just know that people are out there to enjoy themselves with you. Be yourself. You and Ben, have fun banter. Don't overthink it. Don't get dysfunctional about it. Right. That's the number one thing. You know, Matt is a little more anal about shit than I am, but I think that balances us out. So when we get on the stage, we can free flow. Right. And so that's what I would say. And don't be too hard on you, because you guys are, to start in New York is a really tough situation, because we started in LA with just a 50 seat to kind of work out the kinks. Yeah. And then we went to London and killed it. And 210 people came out to see us in London. That was a blast, man. Yeah. And then we did Chicago. 120 to 100 people came out for the first show and then the second show, and that was great. And so we got to just relax and enjoy our fans. And all those fans who have commented numerous times, they will show up. Yeah. And so that'll give you a feeling of confidence and desire from the fans that will calm your nerves and make you enjoy yourself.
When you say dysfunctional, do you mean like you still stuck to like the top 10 format like as closely as you could?
We did,
with including the audience,
right? And but I would say don't be like, okay, we need to say it like this, and we need to do this, and we need to do that. It's more a matter of keep the points there, but feel free to flow within the points, and you'll trust that you'll get to them eventually as they naturally happen within the show. That's going to make the show work. That's always what we have discovered as we've done it. Because I think the first show, I was the anal retentive one. Okay. Because I wanted to be like, well, no, I always start the show. Right, and I do this. And I think Matt was a little put off by that. And as we talked about it and negotiated before London, it was so much more relaxed. Good. So that's the thing you'll discover. But it's all trial and error.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you letting me know, man. I mean, you got to find out from people that have done it. You guys have had a lot. I mean, 210 people in London. I don't even know if we have 210 fans in London. The fact that you got them all to show up in one building is amazing. So,
thank you, man.
Yeah, no, thank you, brother. So back to what we were talking about, which is the MCU villains. And I think the first thing that's really important about this, well, actually, does Mysterio fall in your top 10?
No.
Yeah, he doesn't fall in mine either.
No.
I like him, but he's not quite there yet. So I'm glad we're on the same page there. But what actually makes a great villain for you? What's like the number one thing for you?
I think I have to feel that this person can actually win. And there has to be something new about them, and I have to respect the reason for them becoming a villain. Like, what is it that drives them? What is it that is at the foundation of their core that makes them become a villain? And I have to feel a level of understanding about why, right? I think that's really important for me when I'm watching a villain. It isn't just twirling mustaches and everybody's dead. I need something a little more complex or a little more depth to the character. That's what I look for.
And they've had that a little bit in the sense of the twirling mustache villain in the MCU. It's kind of just like a placeholder. And I completely agree. You basically hit all the points that I had written down here in one sentence, which is great because, the fact of, the depth of character is very important. You got to believe that they have to believe what they're doing is just. Yeah. I think that's one of the most important things. The only thing that I also think matters is the intimidation factor. I want to see the villain and be like, damn, dude, I would not want to run into that guy in an alley. Right. Or girl, whether, because Hela is one of the greatest villains in the MCU as well, in my opinion. So, okay. But so then you have the promise of a great villain, right? But they fall flat. And there's the difference between the ones that you don't really know are going to be there. You're not that excited, and they're like, oh, okay, whatever. The Frost guys in the first Thor, they were fine. I didn't even know they were going to be bad or whatever, so Frost I can't giants, hate it. But I remember when Whiplash was announced, Iron Man 2, and this is right after Rourke, comes off doing The Wrestler. Yeah. He's got his comeback, right? He looks like he's going to be an A-list superstar again, and now he's a villain in a Marvel movie, but he just didn't do it for almost anyone. Yeah. And like, I don't think he was the worst, but the actual anticipation due to the delivery for me was the most disparaging. Like, the gap there was massive. Yeah. I want my board. Like, I get it, dude. It's funny. You only need to say it once. Yeah. Who was that for you?
I would have to say Red Skull.
That's a good one.
Because when you hear all the stories afterwards about how unhappy Hugo Weaving was to play this character, it comes through in the performance.
Totally.
And that really matters, and seeing, Red Skull is one of the greatest villains of the MCU. When you talk about Logan, which is based on Old Man Logan, Red Skull is still alive in Old Man Logan in the comic book series. He is the main villain in the comic book series. You're like, that's how strong of a villain this is. You cast someone like Hugo Weaving, who's fantastic.
He's so good.
Such a great villain in the Matrix series. You're like, okay, I'm going to get an awesome a Red Skull out of this. And he's kind of flaccid.
Yeah.
And even at times when he's being strong, yes, you like it, but it's the fact that you have to look at the whole picture, and in the whole picture, he doesn't nail it, and I was disappointed. Are there other villains that have come along who've been worse? Yes.
Of course.
But the disappointment is what you're talking about, which means expectations were high. And I like Captain America First Avenger a lot, and but I just thought he was very disappointing as a villain.
Yeah, and that's so weird for someone like Hugo. I mean, do you know any of the actual details behind why he was so upset with it?
I think he didn't understand. I didn't think he didn't understand the commitment in terms of the prosthetics, and then in terms of what he was saying, and what, like, the idea of being in a comic book movie, I think was just so foreign to him.
Yeah,
because he's not one of these guys like Jai Courtney or Russell Crowe or any of these. Like, he's a character actor.
Yes,
he's an Australian character actor. I remember seeing him in a number of films before he became famous, when I was like on my IFC kick and watching everything possible. He had a great film where he played a blind dude who was like in love with this girl but didn't understand what it was going on. I think it's called Proof or something like that, but it's not the one that Michelle, Paltrow, Gwyneth Paltrow did. It's a different one, and he is like being led into these situations and figuring stuff out as he goes along. That was my first exposure to him. Then I just kind of devoured everything he did after that, and then we got into these situations, and I think he's just one of these guys that like even with The Matrix, that's a character he's playing.
A massive character.
Right?
Yeah.
And he's driving the story a lot of the time. But with this, it's, I don't know, from what I read, he just was unhappy doing it. He realized early on this was not his medium, not his genre, rather.
Right.
And so he did the best he could with it and stepped out, and
what I think is interesting about that is both these guys are pretty well-respected actors. And obviously, Mickey Rourke is someone that people don't really want to work with because of his personality on set, from what I've heard. But he's still a good actor, and we've seen it. Again, The Wrestler was like the big comeback shot of adrenaline in his career. So
I'll give you Year of the Dragon from the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
If you haven't seen Year of the Dragon, do yourself a favor and see that.
I've heard of that. I've heard of it a couple times. Is it? Yeah?
So good. Him and John Lone going at it toe-to-toe.
Okay.
And John Lone, I think, is Yakuza. And they go at each other over. He's a cop. Mickey Rourke's a cop. John Lone is this like head of this. Maybe it's Chinese, but please forgive me. It's either Chinese or Japanese gang, and he's in charge of them. And he is trying to bring them down.
Got it.
And they go after his family. And the whole film is like him going toe to toe with this guy, and it's fantastic. One of these forgotten 80s films that he did that were great, like A Prayer for the Dying, where he's an IRA hitman hiding out in a church in Ireland.
His career to me is like pretty foreign because he just wasn't around when I was growing up. And then all of a sudden he came back to life, and I was like, holy shit, there's so much about this guy I don't know, but I'm fascinated by it. So that being said, we're going to hop into our actual ranking now. We're going to go from 10 down to 1. And I think everyone on this list is, on my list at least, I don't know what your list is, are great actors. And I'm going to kick it off with my number 10. I have a feeling I'm going to get a little skewered on mine. I mean, it's MCU, so you can never do anything right.
Nope.
Unless it's DC, then you definitely can't do anything right. But for me, my number 10 is Trevor Slattery. It's the Mandarin.
Okay.
I just thought it was so Shane Black to do that, and I love the way it came off. I thought he was hilarious, the comedy in there. For me, obviously, he doesn't hit any of the things that we talked about earlier. He wasn't, I mean, for a moment, he was kind of intimidating. You were like, this guy could be insane. And, Ben Kingsley, like, I love him as a villain. Right. So the first time I watched it, I was actually really let down. Yeah. I really didn't like it. But as time has gone on, and I've kind of, we've gotten so much other Iron Man, so much more Marvel, I was able to kind of give it a bit of a pass. And then when I went back and watched it recently, I was like, this is awesome. Like, this is just stupid, awesome fun. So I had to put him on the list. I don't think he makes anyone else's top 10, but he made mine.
Okay. Oh, so we'll go 10.
We'll go back and forth. Okay. Yeah.
Then my number 10 is Alexander Pierce from Winter Soldier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Redford.
Yeah, Robert Redford.
Yeah.
I like him because, A, he's a Hydra agent. B, he gave Captain America all he could handle without having to lift up any fist to punch him.
Yep.
He is a Nazi guy. he was moved stealthily through the ranks of power to come into this position where he could actually affect the world with his decisions and his policies and his actions. And I like the fact that he wasn't a guy who needed superpowers to be able to be evil in this world. And he kind of fucked up Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. as well by his ability to do this kind of. So when he popped back up in Endgame, I lost my mind. Yeah. I was like, yes, because he's so perfect.
The Hail Hydra from Captain is one of my favorite things.
It's fantastic.
But yeah, the puppet master, the true puppet master, Redford. I like that. So number 9 for me is another one that I don't think makes anyone's list. It's Ultron.
And that is my number 9.
Really?
Cool.
Okay, okay. So then you tell me why. Why do you love Ultron?
Well, I enjoy Ultron. Look, we're doing top 10. Yeah. So the MCU doesn't have a record of having great villains.
True.
So,
this is very true.
So, you got to pick the ones you like. I liked Ultron for the concept of Ultron, which was this thing that was born out of Tony Stark's paranoia. It's what he is. All of Tony Stark's ugliness is inside Ultron. Whereas Vision is what could have been.
Right, the good.
Ultron is what is, right? What it was when he was creating it. And so he takes on that person and he figures out, oh yeah, humans, you guys don't need to exist at all.
Nope.
And you guys are messing this whole thing up. I'm going to do better with it. And there are certain scenes, and I know it's not a good movie overall, great movie overall, but there are a lot of scenes where Ultron is ingenious in how he gets the best of the Avengers and how he tricks them and how he puts them in certain situations. And like that whole fight on Sokovia at the end there with all those Ultrons coming out is fantastic.
I like that.
Yeah. And he's commandeering them all. And what he's trying to do, again, he is trying to show them the ugliness that exists in human beings.
Right.
And they just want to destroy him, but every time he talks, he really exposes the ugly underbelly of what's happening within the people that are involved in the scenes.
Exactly. And not only does it's because his voice is awesome, because Spader's voice as Ultron is amazing, but it is it's what he says. It's not how he says it, but it's what he's actually saying. And then I also love one of the first times you see him in Ultron form on the ship. Right?
Oh,
he just cuts off. Doesn't he cut off Circus's arm?
Right.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh, okay. So that's what kind of villain he's going to be. He's no holds barred, nothing held back. I love that.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll hop in with my number 8 since we have the same number 9. Abomination. I love Tim Roth being a bad guy.
Okay.
I really do. Now, again, the movie sucks. It's not a good movie. The fight in the street is pretty cool, I guess. But for me, it's like the transformation. That's like where I talk about not wanting the intimidation factor.
Right.
I love how crazy Tim Roth is, and then when he actually becomes Abomination, you're just like, oh wow, this is a gnarly ass villain.
Yeah,
I think he's cool. The fact that he can take on Hulk, or at least try to take on Hulk, and then again the bones sticking out of his body. Visually, I loved him.
Well, look at the genesis of where it's pure anger. The man, Tim Roth, the character is an ugly, ugly person.
Yeah, evil,
right? And so you taking on that gamma, he becomes even more uglier and angrier and able to commit even more villainous acts because he has the ability to do so. And he pushes back, and he could have beaten Hulk, honestly, because Hulk is having this like existential crisis about it. Here is Abomination, who's quite happy being knowing he can become this thing, and wants to use it for his benefits. And so, I get it. I totally get why you would put him on there.
And I just love Tim Roth, man. I think he's such an underutilized actor these days. I mean, I liked him in the Hateful Eight. I thought he was fine.
Yeah.
But like, him being a villain is just truly wonderful, unless it's Planet of the Apes.
Well, everybody involved in that film.
Yeah, it was a rough one.
And I hear same kind of stories about him at times on sets.
Oh, really?
Is he tough? He's kind of tough to work with.
I can see
sometimes.
that for sure. Yeah. He seems like he could be the type. What do you got at 8?
Brits can be crazy. My number 8 is Hela.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So she's much higher for me on the list.
Totally fair.
What do you love about Hela? What do you not like about Hela?
There's a slight bit of disappointment. Okay. Because she shows up and she destroys that hammer and she's like exposing this bullshit lie that Thor had about his kingdom and about Asgard, about his dad, And we've accepted in the MCU like, oh, it's a father-son thing. He's trying to figure out how to please his father and blah, blah, blah. And then Hela's like, oh, yeah? This is the man you want to please? Woof. Let me show you the raping and pillaging and all the terrible things he did to people. This man that you revere so much. Look at all this horrible truth. And I thought it was a brilliant device to kind of make a subtle jab at America.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, oh, yeah, we talk about how great we are and we should blah, blah, blah. But look at all this shit that we did as a country. Like, you can't forget that either.
That first Thanksgiving is not what we've drawn it up to be in school, man.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just not.
Exactly. So you look at, but Hela, but she stays pretty much, once she gets to the castle, she's pretty much at the castle.
That's a good point.
And there's not more of her. And I wanted more of Kate, because Kate was sexy AF.
Oh my gosh!
In this
right?
role,
she not only was so sexy, she was so badass.
Yeah, badass.
And you believe it,
right?
You totally believe it.
It's the combo.
Yeah, man. I do have her higher on my list, but that's a really good point. It does feel like she kind of stagnates halfway through the film.
She does
when she does kick off with a big bang. Yeah. I mean, destroying the hammer just with one hand is one of the coolest things I've seen in the Marvel universe.
And it's metaphorical, right? That she would take, you know, his power and just crush it in her hand, because she's essentially castrating him in that moment.
She's the true, she's the true child,
exactly.
the true gifted child.
Exactly.
Which I also hate how she goes down at the end with with what's his name? What's that thing called?
Yeah,
big fire guy.
Yeah. Bibiani got it wrong in our Surtur.
Yeah, there you go. I love how you're like, Bibiani got it wrong. I got to remember this.
That's how I won.
Poor Bibs. So your 8 was okay. So my number 7 is Ego. And
okay, that's higher on my list.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I really liked Ego because I know that in the original comic books he's not Peter's dad, which I think is I like what they did in this.
Yeah.
I love the idea, and you know, this kind of alludes to Mysterio a little bit too, but the villain that you don't know is a villain for a really long time, and how Mantis is always kind of like, my master, he's troubled, like he can't sleep, and all these things, and then when you actually find out what he's done, the amount of kids that he's murdered to try to find his son that was the moment. And I also love the way that they drew up that room where he was telling the history of everything. It was so well done and different. I just love Kurt. I mean, how can he not?
Of course.
He's been showing up so much lately in film. I'm really happy about it. I think the first time I remember seeing him again was like in Fast and the Furious, whatever that was.
Oh, yeah.
And then
you didn't see him in Death Proof?
I did see Death Proof, but I didn't think he was back yet. You know what I mean? Like, it felt like he was just in a movie, and Death Proof,
fair enough.
I feel like those were like... We watched those movies, whereas the general public, I feel like, didn't see it as much.
That's a good point.
You know,
they didn't make that. Those movies did not make money when they came out as a grindhouse 3-hour experience.
But you know, as time's gone on, people always talk about those films and who directed them. So that's my number 7.
You make a good point with Ego, because it's higher up on my list. As I said, it's my number 4, and I really enjoy what Kurt does here. And the thing is, that's that moment you're talking about, all those kids. It's the women too. The women that he's impregnated on all these multiple planets, all these multiple things, trying to find this one thing. And look how little people or species matter to this thing, because it has no concept of how to live on the ground floor.
He's a god.
He's a god. He has no concept, right? And so the battles and the things that he does and the way he tries to manipulate Peter, it's horrible. Having your dad be the villain, in essence, is just an overwhelming thing to conceive of. You know?
Yeah, and I have a estranged father, essentially. Like, I don't really speak to him at all. So it's one of those things where you see it, and it's like, you too? No, you don't really see it. I don't really see him. But then when watching that movie,
I was sorry.
I know. I'm never gonna drop it. I'm gonna keep bringing it up. But for me, when I saw that, I was just like, man, I can't even imagine what that must feel like.
Yeah.
You know, and I love that they tugged on that.
Yeah, definitely. What, number 7?
So that was your 7. So now I'm going to go to my number 6. And
I haven't done my 7.
Oh, right. You were talking about Ego.
Yeah.
My bad.
My 7 is Adrian Toomes, the Vulture.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I have him so much higher. He's my number 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This is going to be fun then.
Yeah, I know. And I'll piggyback on what you have to say, but talk to me a little bit about
Toomes,
him.
I like that he is... Like, it's a believable villain in terms of, like, this is a guy who's just a blue-collar dude.
Right.
He's just trying to run a business, right? He's picking up after these heroes and all their power, and they're flying around doing all this stuff. They don't think about the collateral damage on the ground. Well, I conceived of a business that I could take care of my family with, and get a house and get my kid to a nice school and do whatever. I will be able to do this, picking up the alien trash and figuring this all out.
And the way they set it up in the beginning is brilliant.
Yeah.
And you just have, is it S.H.I.E.L.D. that comes in,
Yeah.
I think, and they just come in and shit on everything he's built, his life's work.
Like the government would do.
Right.
No debate. It's done. Get out.
Yep. Everything you own, sure, you can own it, but you can't use it anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he goes rogue, tries to figure this all out, and then eventually discovers this tech that he can use so that he can do certain things.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's not that standard Vulture stuff which you see in the comics. They're wearing the green furry collar and all that jazz.
Right.
He's a vulture for a different reason, right? What he's trying to do with his family, trying to fund and support and do whatever. And yeah, he's committed some evil acts, but he wants to not do evil stuff if he doesn't have to do evil stuff. So that's why it moves him lower in the. He's not. He's a villain by necessity. He's not a villain by desire.
And see, and I love when the villain in him really starts to come out. And it's when the first time I think it is when he vaporizes the dude, and he's like, "Well, oops."
Yeah.
He's
but it's one of his own dudes.
Yeah, it's one of his own guys.
It's not some innocent guy on the streets.
Right.
Yeah,
it's one of his own bad guys.
Yeah.
And then, and that scene in the car, man.
Oh, that's the scene.
That's the scene. Everyone talks about that scene. I love how he brings out the gun, even though it's Spider-Man. It's just something like so weak and like dirty about it.
Right.
But it's perfect. And Keaton is just brilliant.
Yeah.
I love him.
He's
man.
Heartbreaking in the role too.
He is. He really is. I love the reveal of the daughter too.
Oh,
that was one of the things that just like as soon as I was like, oh, great layer, great little nugget in there. So now we're getting into our top 5, and my number 5.
Wait,
oh no, 6.
Yeah.
Jesus, what is wrong with me today?
all right.
I drank a lot last night. We did a 200-minute stream to celebrate AMA.
200 minutes.
200 minutes. Yeah, I know. It was a long,
Good
it was a long time. And then people started buying us drinks in it, so we would have like when they would donate in super chat, we would drink. So it just became a whole thing. It ended up being a good night. But
That's good.
Yeah. So my number 6 is Loki. And I know it's crazy.
Wow.
I know. Most people have him in their top 3. A lot of people have him as number 1.
Okay.
I was a late. He almost. If you talked to me a year ago, he wouldn't have even been on my list. I know. It's crazy.
Fascinating.
But with all the Avengers content coming out over the last year and a half, I went back and revisited all the original Avengers movies, all the origin stories, and I forgot how badass he was in the first Avengers. He is nuts. Like, he is ruthless. He is a powerful god. He thinks everything is below him, which, again, he's a god, so I understand it. He kills Coulson. Like, there's just so many great moments in there that I'd forgotten about as time had gone on. So that's kind of why he fell down on my list, is because I figured if he was that great of a villain, which he really is, it would have stuck with me more. And I don't know why it didn't. But I love Loki. I love Hiddleston as Loki. And I also, what I love about him is he's like that chaotic neutral, right? He just wants to figure out, or no, that's not the term I'm looking for. Whatever it is you never know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And you don't know why he's doing it. He just has got a mischief. So I'm just going to mess with you because I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that, yeah. He's higher up on my list. Like you said, top 3. He's definitely in my top 3 because of the Avengers stuff, but also the Thor movies, both of them. He always finds a way to trick Thor. He always finds a way, like it's in his nature. Even in Ragnarok, that far down the line, we've seen Loki kind of turn back to being somewhat good.
Yeah.
He still wants to trick Thor when they're coming into that spaceship, when they're trying to escape at the end there. Thor purposely puts him in a situation where he has to be electrocuted because he knows Loki's going to turn on him. He knows he has no other, he does not know any other way to exist than to turn on anybody who tries to help him on anything.
And I also love the dynamic of him sitting up there and hanging out with Goldblum while Thor is in chains.
Yeah.
It's just like, of course Loki is just being treated like a god again on this new planet. I mean, he's still scared of Goldblum. I think we all are.
Right.
But I love that character.
Yeah, it's so good.
Okay, so I mean that makes sense.
Yeah.
I definitely understand. I'm excited to see where he lands. So what do you have at 6?
I have Aldrich Killian from Iron Man 3 at 6.
Yeah, is that that's Pierce?
Guy Pearce.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason I put him here at 6 is, once again, and I have affinity for people who can manipulate situations, right? Now, Aldrich understands how Stark works, right? Yes, people go, he snubbed him at a party, but it was more than that. He saw an opportunity. He got his guts up. He had a moment with one of the great guys. His hero.
Yeah.
And he was like, I want to, because don't tell me you love Incredibles, because Syndrome is essentially the same fucking thing.
Right.
So Aldrich
That's a
Killian.
good point.
Yeah, really, same thing. All he did was get snubbed, as a kid.
Yep.
Even lesser
Even worse.
age.
Yeah, that's worse.
He held it on for even longer.
Yeah.
But like with Killian, it was a moment where he got his guts up and he wanted to present something to Stark, and Stark just kind of shut him down, and Killian took that, and it motivated him.
It did.
So in a way, it worked out for him and to turn into this thing. But look, he's manipulating the man. He's using the Mandarin. He's manipulating Rebecca Hall to do the turn that she does. Oh, yeah. So he's in charge of all the stuff that's happening to Tony Stark, the PTSD, all the stuff that he's dealing with. He takes advantage of everything to try to destroy Tony. The extremist stuff. He almost does it too.
Right.
So
he
he's
gets
real
close.
Yeah, it blows up the Stark comp at the house, right?
Exactly. That was a crazy scene. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I also think that Guy Pearce is one of the best villains, just period. Like, as an actor, he just looks like a guy you want to hate. Yeah. You know, like in Lawless, he's great, even though he's technically the good guy, you know? And then one of my classic favorites, Count of Monte Cristo. He's so good in there, man. Great. He's so great.
Him and Jim Caviezel are fantastic in that movie.
That's one of my like maybe top 15, 20 movies. I love that movie. Yeah. And
he's kind of a punk in LA Confidential at the beginning. He's a cocky little mama's boy who's gotten pampered and moved up the chain in a privileged way because his dad was chief of police. So you kind of don't like him at the beginning, and you're with Russell at the beginning until things kind of switch around. So you're right. He has that kind of face.
He's got that face, man. You don't trust him. So my number 5 is Killmonger.
Okay.
Wow, 5? Yeah, I know. My list is so weird, man. Even when I was talking to our generals, the Patreon generals, they were very surprised that I had Loki and Killmonger at my 5 and 6. I just feel like he falls apart in the third act, and I wanted to see this super badass fight between him and Black Panther, but it just kind of got, the whole train system or whatever kind of got in the way.
I love his stuff.
Yeah, I didn't need that. I really didn't. I loved his line at the end. I thought it was brilliant. I completely understood where he was coming from. Yeah. I get it. And the funny thing is even though he dies in the end, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, is that he kind of gets what he wants, which is that T'Challa goes and helps the rest of the world with his power. He doesn't make it so that it's only their people in control.
Right.
He shares it more than Killmonger would have. So I like everything. I like where he comes from. But for me, a lot of I think what they were trying to convey was the angst that he had of having the father leave or die when he was young and not knowing who he was and where he came from. It, for some reason, like that angst and anger for me translated into it just felt a little flat throughout. Don't know why it didn't hit with me, because I've heard from so many people that they're like maybe their favorite villain out there. But he just didn't do it for me.
Okay. All right, he's my number 2.
Okay, wow.
Definitely, yeah. I like Killmonger a lot. I dig what he brings to the character, what Michael B. Jordan brings to the character in the role, and what he imbues the role with. This could have just been like what we've seen before in numerous Marvel MCU movies. The villain is essentially the opposite of the other person, right? And he does look like him when he has that his own Panther suit and everything like that. But it comes from this separation within the African American community of like Africa, and American black, right? And so the reflection you see, and I have friends who are I've spoken to through many years of hearing the differences between, and at college you talk to people who actually are from Africa, and what's that like? How do they view the world? I have another friend who's Jamaican. What's it like to be Jamaican black versus Africa black or American black? So there's a lot of nuance to the black experience in the world and in the United States. So I like that he was able to bring that out in a way that was believable, and you sided with him with a lot of what he was doing. Yeah. And he also had this incredibly ruthless determination to do what he needed to do to get to that position of power. So he could, like we talk about, change the world. And everyone always thinks, change the world is a positive connotation.
Right. No.
He makes it in a negative connotation and almost gets it done. And uses the traditions and the rituals and the practices.
I did love that.
Right?
To his advantage.
To his advantage.
Yeah.
T'Challa should have died.
He should have.
If M'Baku doesn't save him, T'Challa is dead.
100%.
And so Killmonger wins by the rules and traditions of the situation.
He deserves to be the Black Panther.
Exactly.
The Black Panther.
The Black Panther.
which is crazy. And I remember immediately loving his first few lines with the lady in the art gallery.
Yeah.
He's like, y'all worried about this, everyone coming in, you don't even think about what you put in your own bodies.
Right.
He starts choking, you're like, oh shit, that's who he's gonna be. That's who he is. So I love that he's also smart and he's a total badass. The scars, I thought that makeup looked amazing.
Yep. He's a man of conviction, if nothing else.
Yeah. So what do you have at 5 then?
Obadiah Stane.
Really? He's my 4.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay, so tell me what you love about Obadiah.
Listen, Obadiah. People do not respect Jeff Bridges, Obadiah Stane enough.
How can? Why not?
It makes no sense. That man is evil.
Yes,
so evil. I mean, it was hard not to put him in my top 4. Really hard. He is so evil because, once again, he's just a regular dude using the money and power that he has acquired by moving up the ranks because he's such good friends with Tony's dad and whatever. And he takes advantage of Tony. And Jeff Bridges, just the look of him with the bald head and the beard.
It's perfect.
Right? And
Tony!
Then the subtle... Tony, I get that. Of course, all of that just kind of sliding in like a friend. To know that the dude could become Obadiah Stane is mind-blowing. And then what he does in that situation, and then when he becomes using that larger version of Iron Man, the way he berates Tony, belittles Tony, it's not enough just to beat him. He wants to embarrass him from beginning to end.
And I love him in that suit, man.
Oh,
He's so badass in there. He's so... And I also love that line where he's like, Tony Stark built this in a cave with scraps. And you're just like, God, he's so evil. I love him. And then there's that shot of him on the magazine cover where he's like kind of like, is he like turning or what? I can't remember. It's like very menacing though. I
looking over his shoulder at Tony.
Yeah, that's
who's taken over the company.
Yeah, and it's just so perfect.
Yeah.
And again, if it's not for Pepper Potts, he wins. He kills Iron Man.
Absolutely. And he's making deals behind Tony's back with all these terrible factions in the world who are doing terrorist things. He does not care.
Nope.
All he cares about is the bottom dollar. And so it's a real villain that you could believe exists in the world.
I love how his villainy evolves, right? Because at first it's kind of just a hit from one of these terrorist factions, and then it becomes, obviously, he becomes evil.
Yeah.
So that's your 5. That's my 4.
Okay.
What's your 4?
It was Ego.
It was Ego, right. Okay, so we'll move up. And so now we're into our top 3, guys. These are our top 3 villains. My number 3 is Hela, although, honestly, after speaking with you, I almost feel like she should drop down a little bit because, I kind of agree, man. She really starts out of the gates like she's sprinting in a marathon.
Yeah. And
it does fall a little flat. So upon revision, I might actually move her down. But for right now, I love how badass she is. I love that big speech she gives at the beginning. The guy's like, but who are you? And she's just like, all right. And then the slick back with the horns and all that. And you talk about someone who's beautiful and badass. I mean, that's something that is very... something to admire, especially and I know this might sound bad, but at her age, it's hard to kind of pull that off. I know she's not old.
Well, it's a matter of like getting the roles to be able to showcase that off. Yeah, and she certainly does.
Yeah, I mean, she can do no wrong in my mind. She's so brilliant. But yeah, so that's my number 3. What do you got?
I had Loki at 3.
Okay,
so I already talked about that kind of jazz, and I almost put him below Ego and Obadiah because he does become good.
Yeah, you're right.
For a lot of the times that he's a villain. So I know a lot of people like to put him at the top, and I'm like, well, no, because he's not fully a villain.
I know.
He starts out as one, but goes back and forth. So.
And then in Infinity War, you see, it's just like, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, he sacrifices himself for his brother.
Finally.
After
all this time. So that's interesting. I like that. So my number 2 is Vulture.
Okay.
I love it. I love that scene in the car. I love that he's just a normal dude trying to make his way in the world, like he said. And he came up with a great idea. He wanted to clean up. He actually wanted to help out. Obviously, make a lot of money from it. You see his house later on. You know this guy is not just scraping by. But I just really, I love Keaton, period. I actually thought they did makeup on his face to make him look more weathered, but they didn't. And then I just felt bad.
Well, look at Birdman. He's pretty weathered in Birdman.
That's true. That's a good point. So
he's had a hard life. He's lived a hard life.
He's lived, must be tough being Michael Keaton.
Well, yeah. It started out great.
Yep.
And then you just kind of disappear for a long time. Yeah, into these straight to DVD movies.
From Batman.
Yeah, from Batman.
Massive. And I think the first time I ever saw him again, and I was really excited, was The Other Guys. When he comes in as the captain.
He was so
funny in there. Yeah. So that's my number 2. Who do you got?
Okay. Then my number 2 was Killmonger.
Okay, so then we both have the same number 1.
Yeah.
It has to be.
It has to be.
How can it not be Helmut Zemo? I mean, he is...
Dude, you had me. That was great.
You're like, what the hell?
For 2 seconds, you had me.
It's Thanos.
Yeah, it's got to be Thanos.
He is the most badass, intimidating. He succeeds.
He won.
He wins, like, almost again. Like, when he put the glove on in Endgame, I gasped.
Yeah.
I looked around, I was like, you can't do it again. We can't have this happen again.
Yeah, right.
You know? But the fact that he wins, the fact that he kills all the Avengers that he does, he gets the Infinity Stones, the Gauntlet, he kills Gamora. Like, this guy's the worst. Yeah, I mean,
From beginning to end, because also he's one of these, as we said with Killmonger, he's one of these creatures of conviction or species of people of conviction who believe the world works better in a certain way. And you don't 100% think he's wrong. This idea of eliminating half the galaxy so that we decrease overpopulation, decrease pollution. In fact, Captain America, Steve Rogers, says that near the beginning of Endgame. He goes, I could see the whales today.
That is so true.
Why can you see the whales? Oh, you can see the whales because there's not a lot of people like crowding the seas, filling it with trash.
They're like in the bay or something, right? They like swim up.
Yeah. Why is that? And so I think someone does say, well, that's what happens when you don't have as many people. And you're like, yeah. So there was logic to what he was doing. And you see how, like, we would live in a world of surplus if half the galaxy was wiped out.
It's crazy to think about that.
Yeah.
And you know, he came from it firsthand on Titan. He saw what happened. And again, like, you talk about speaking on things that are happening in our real life and in the world, it's terrifying.
Right.
It's all the things that are happening with global warming, and you look at this and you're like, well, honestly, dude.
Yeah.
And we had Coy on the show earlier because we were talking Far From Home, and he was like, sometimes when I'm on the 405, just like, come on, you know. So
right, but you're also someone else's come on.
Yeah,
when you know he
point.
could be dusted too.
Yeah.
By someone else if they had a chance to dust that thing.
And the performance of Brolin is amazing. You know, our friend Matt, a really good friend of Ben and mine, he was the second AD on all. Yeah, he's big time.
That's
great.
He
won the Directors Guild Award for The Revenant. He worked on Iron Man. So he did Infinity War and Endgame. And he was telling us, like, even on set, even with the mocap suit on, he still would say lines and everyone would just get chills and be silent.
Yeah.
Do you think he'll get a nod?
No.
No
I don't
way.
think so.
I thought, I mean, if he was going to get one, it would have been for Infinity War.
Yes, because he wins.
Exactly.
And because he gets to look the best of the Avengers.
He's so good, though.
It's the subtlety with which he plays the role, too. Like, he rarely has moments of emotion.
Right.
Right? And so, but yet, the menace is constant and unsettling the whole time. And even at the end, when you think Thor gets him, he's like, oh, you should have aimed for the head.
Right.
It's not enough that he beats you. It's that he beats you and then makes you feel like a child.
Yes.
By the mistake you made and because you let your emotions get the best of you, which is why he wins, because he's just like this the whole time.
Exactly. He's even keel, level-headed, and that's what I love about him in Endgame too. Is you're like, how on earth does this guy just figure out about time travel, see that he dies in the future, and he's just like, all right, I know what I need to do.
Yeah.
This is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to get to the best of him again. He's just, there's something so incredible. And his intelligence. Smartest guy in the room, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yep.
When they're doing their time travel bullshit, Scooby-Doo bullshit, he figures it out quickly with Nebula through that one, just from the vision or the things that she has inside her head. He's able to piece it together with Ebony Maw and do all this kind of stuff. Go, oh, wait, we need to be doing this. And then so much so that he ends up with his entire fleet ready to destroy Captain America until everyone shows up.
The whole fleet.
Oh, that's
great. It's so good. Ebony Maw should have been on my list. He is amazing.
The whole Dark Order is great.
Yeah.
Obsidian and Proxima Midnight, all great stuff.
And usually they don't pay enough attention to those tertiary characters. They expect them to just have like one good fight and disappear. But they are very, very solid, which I love.
Yeah.
Ebony Maw should be on my list. That's another mistake I've made. I've learned two things today, John. Well, dude, how fitting for us to do a top 10 list on the show with you here. I love that we both had Thanos as number one. I also really love that we both didn't have the Winter Soldier on the list.
No,
because he's not.
He's not really a villain.
No, he was brainwashed, mind controlled, and then as soon as he's now an awesome hero.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. His fights in Winter Soldier with Cap are amazing.
Yeah, they're great fights.
When he stabs the side of the van and he drags the knife with the arm, that's like one of my favorite moments in the whole universe. But I'm glad we didn't have him.
No, because he comes back around and he's been manipulated mentally.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not him. All these villains on the list are driven to do what they do by their own
choice.
Yeah, their own choice, their own conviction. They're not mind tricked to do certain things.
Yeah, which is exactly what happened to him. So that's going to do it, guys. That is our top 10 list, the ranking of the definitive ranking from John and Andrew. Not the action guys. Father and son, if you will. I'm glad you're finally back around. And is there anything else that you want to plug before we say goodbye? Is there anything that people should be looking out for?
There's a new I know I say this again.
No,
There's
say
a new show I have on collider here called the Deep Cut, and I am building that thing up from scratch. You know, they couldn't give me an on-camera show, another on-camera show. We have so many.
Yeah.
So I fought to have this thing. It's a podcast. I know it's another podcast, but it's a podcast where I interview people from the world of entertainment and pop culture or news and media, whoever I can get in here, and we talk about either their career, a project they're promoting, or an issue they're fighting for.
Oh, that's cool.
And I wanted it as a kind of counter programming in here where we go deep into like what you're like. We had Danny Fernandez on my second episode, and she talked about how, and speaking of Avengers, she talked about how PTSD and depression and mental health issues were addressed in Avengers Endgame.
I loved that.
Right?
Really?
She wrote a great article for Playboy. It blew me away, the article, and I asked her to come in, and we discussed it. And I've had Emma Fyffe on here to talk about Daenerys' decision near the end of Game of Thrones and what she did. Was it militarily correct, considering how certain countries have won wars in the past, doing ruthless things like this at critical moments? So we explored that. But I've also had people like Yuri Lowenthal in here to talk about Spider-Man, but also talk about the causes he fights for. Rob Paulson has been here. We talked about how he survived cancer, and now he's back doing Animaniacs for Hulu starting, I think, next year.
Right.
But recently, I just had Himesh Patel on, who's the lead of Yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sat and talked for like 45 minutes about his career, about how he went about doing this film, but also what he's trying to do as an actor of color and an Asian actor, because the Brits see Indians as Asian, as well, classify them as Asian. So he's an Asian actor, according to him, according to them, and what he's trying to do with his work to kind of break the stereotype of Asian actors. And he says in the interview, one of the things he says is that I don't want to. I've turned down roles where I will reinforce stereotypes about my people or our people, and I was just blown away by that.
Especially a guy that hasn't like truly. I mean, now he's broken through. It feels like, but turning down roles ever as an actor is something. I mean, you almost never turn down a role.
Yeah,
doesn't matter what you're going to be.
You got to work.
Yeah, you got to work. Got to pay your bills. Yeah. I'm going to check that out. Did you like Yesterday?
Oh, I loved it.
I can't wait to see it. Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I will go again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some weekend when my girlfriend goes out of town, I will go again or sneak off after work some night and go see it again because I love it so much. And as a Beatles fan, I really enjoy it. And as a British romantic comedy fan, I enjoyed it as well.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, and I just had Eric Rogers on, who is the showrunner for Skylanders Academy, and we talked the Writers Guild versus the Association of Talent Agents battle that's happening here currently that is massive, and we went in depth on that. So those are little things, slowly but surely, trying to kind of do this.
It's nice because obviously we get a lot of joy out of what we do, and we bring a lot of joy to others, but at the end of the day, we are just usually talking about movies, which is great because movies can speak on social issues, and they do, but to actually focus more on that aspect is great. So guys, check that out. The Deep Cut. Please go watch that. John is so talented. You guys know that. You just saw how great he was with me on camera. It was all him. It was all me.
Please, it was all him.
But guys, one more time, if you guys want, find him at The Rocha Says. You guys can find me at Andrew Guy. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Ben will be taking over for the next couple weeks. I'll be in China.
Whoa.
So I'm excited.
Are you shooting something else?
Clash Royale. We're doing the World Cyber Games there.
What?
It's like the Olympics for video games.
So you're hosting that whole thing?
I'm hosting the Clash Royale part specifically, but yeah, dude, I'll be there for a week. I'm excited.
That's awesome.
I've never been to China, but especially mainland China. I know it's very different than Hong Kong. Apparently, is what I hear. So I'm excited to go.
Up.
Yeah,
don't make any mistakes. Chinese prison is no joke,
dude. I know.
Read up all that shit.
All the things you can and cannot do. I will not be doing any live streaming. I will not be using Google or Instagram. Like I gotta be able to come back.
Right, because you don't look like a standard white American going over there. Right. So you got to really be careful.
Oh yeah, I smiled in my visa picture. They're like, don't smile.
Oh yeah.
They're like, you need to no. So, anyways, guys, thanks for hanging out. We will see you next time. John, thanks again, brother.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. Bye, guys.